high key image is one where overall it's very, very light, but you still get a certain amount of definition in the darker areas. And we're going to take this picture here and we're going to go from this to this. And here's how. Here's our file structure, the original, which is invisible. Then we've got base on the top. We're going to work on that one. So come to the image, press Ctrl+M, that's my curves dialog box. Now, because I want a little bit of dark areas just for definition, I'm going to drag my cursor. But the main thing I want is a huge curve where there's a huge emphasis on all the light areas. Most of the stuff there has been made a lot lighter, was washed out. Now, I want to be sure that I don't lose too much detail around the eye area because the face is always the most important point. So that's around whereabouts the shadows hit on this face. They're around that point there, so I'll try and drag that down just a little bit. This has to be some fairly subtle tweaking at the moment, try and get the balance right, and I'm looking at the face while I do this, seeing we've got the contrast there. I'll go with that for now. We could leave it at that, but let's take it further. Come to select, color range. I want to find all the lighter areas. Looks like I found them already. Try our fuzziness. Okay, the main thing it's affecting, you can see, is the parker of the boy. Take it about there. And there's my selection. I'm going to make a new layer. Now, what's my foreground color? I press D to make it default. There's my foreground color. It's white. So, got my new layer. I'm going to press Alt+Delete to flood it in white. Ctrl+D to deselect. Then I'm going to come to my filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I want to blur this out. You get this almost kind of halo effect around them, like they're a little bit otherworldly. Okay, I'm in normal mode now. That's a bit overpowering. Well, we could use, well, all these modes here make everything lighter, so let's make it lighter. Then I'm going to take it down to 0, like I usually do, then bring it up to where I want it. It depends how much of that kind of halo effect you want. I don't want too much, just enough to make a statement. Okay, about 44% I've got there, whatever works for you. Now, I do have a bit of a problem with this coat. It's a huge blob of red, which is really overpowering everything in the picture. So I'm going to come to my base layer, duplicate it. Let's call it coat. Then I'm going to come to select, color range, and I'm going to start taking samples from this coat. Hold down my Shift key to add to the samples. See, I'm getting most of it now. I usually find with color range, the best thing to do is, rather than trying to get everything, you make kind of a rough idea. You make a rough selection, then you start to refine it. You can see around here I've got the stray bits, so I'm going to press my Alt key, and I am going to take out some of the selection. Yeah, around the mouth as well. A little bit around here. Using the lasso tool for what it does best, large, broad selections, nothing too precise. Oh, tiny little bit just here. And my Shift key to add to, and I've got these little gaps here, and also these trousers down the bottom I can include in this. There. Leave that white stripe there, we don't need to do anything with that. Okay, I could come in and use curves to do fine tweaking, but instead I'm going to press Ctrl+U, my hue saturation, and all I want to do is take down this saturation a little bit so it's not quite so overpowering. Don't take it down too... Actually, that's not... You can just about get away with that. I'm going to go with about there. Ctrl-D to deselect. There we go. Okay, so we've got our color image. It's looking quite nice. A lot of the times, though, high-key images are made in black and white. All right, well, let's do that. Now, we could just come in here and just desaturate this image, but we wouldn't have the flexibility that I'm about to show you. I'm going to come up to the top, this adjustments. I'm going to put black and white adjustment layer there. Now, what an adjustment layer does, it just sits on top of whatever layers you've got and do the various changes, in this case, make things black and white or what have you. But then it's also got here a layer mask next to it, which means you can mask out effect, and anytime you want to switch it on or off, it's there, so there's no permanent changes. So adjustment layers, very useful. I want to call this one face, and then I'm going to add two more. 1, 2. The middle one I'm going to call hair, and the top one I'm going to call top. So why have I done this? I'm just going to make the hair layer invisible for a moment and then work on my face layer. Now, I'm not very happy at the moment with what's going on here. The faces look a little bit too washed out here. I want a little bit more definition there. So I'm going to come to my face layer and I'm going to start tweaking these sliders here. Now you'll find for the face, things like greens and have hardly any effect on the face. Most things won't, but reds will have a huge effect on the skin tones. And I'm going to pull this down and you can see they're getting more definition on the face. That's quite nice there. But also this whole area, the whole coat area suddenly got darker and it's starting to overpower again. I don't want that. Now, luckily, as I just mentioned, you have this. You have a layer mask already built in to an adjustment layer. So let's see, my background color is black. So I'm going to come to Edit, Fill, Background color, and I'm going to flood this whole layer mask in black so it's all invisible. Now all I need to do is I've got my paintbrush tool selected. I've got white selected. So now I'm going to paint. And anywhere which is white on the layer mask, the effect is going to show through. And you can see I'm just painting in the effect right where I want it and nowhere else. So we'll do that there, do the face there, and all of a sudden the faces are really popping out now. But because there's no white on the layer mask where the coat is, the coat remains that kind of neutral color, which is what I want. All right, let's come to the hair layer. If I up the yellows, you can see the highlights there are really getting really quite spectacular. But again, the coat's being affected. But by now we realize that's not really a problem. Is there any other slide I can do here to affect that? Well, that's starting to make the hat look a little bit nicer there. So again, with this one, I'm going to come to Edit, Fill, and fill the background color, which is black. Then I'm going to make sure that I've got white selected on my paintbrush, and now I can just start painting in the hair area. I'm getting these really quite intense highlights there, and also there's a little bit around here which I wanted to do as well. So now I've got two localized bits of black and white there. So why did I put this top layer on? Well, look, I'll turn it off a second. If I turn it off, what you're left with is some small black and white areas here. But now, effectively, I've got two black and white layers there, which are mostly invisible apart from the small areas around the face and the hair or whatever. So this top layer there is just to bind everything together to make it all black and white. But there is one thing as well. See there? If ever you wanted to do that spot color thing where a lot of the image is black and white, but certain areas are in color, well, this is how you could do it. There you go then. High key. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, maybe you consider clicking on one of the links below and check out my game called Disco Baby, which is on the iTunes Store or Android stores like Google Play. It has 3 different games in it, a memory game, a maths game for children, and a dance along with me game for toddlers to join in with. Thanks for your time.